Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. I will call to order the City of Albuquerque Intergovernmental Legislative Relations Committee special meeting on October 8th to order. I appreciate everyone coming together for us to have a special meeting to hear from our lobbyists, both at the state and federal level, to give us updates as they relate to our current status in our country. With that, we will get started with our first item on the agenda, which is a report from our state lobbyist, Mr. Park and Mr. Thompson. Sure, who would like to go first?
Usually Joe goes first, but did he just disappear? I think he got disconnected. Well, Madam Chair, I'll be happy to start then. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. As you know, we just recently wrapped up and concluded a 2-day special session where the legislature was predominantly focused on the issues with respect to funding, with perceived funding gaps with respect to HR 1. Those were addressed. There was a $27 million shortfall to cover health insurance premiums. That was addressed. There was addressed funding for public radio, public TV. I think it's really just, frankly, a temporary solution. We're going to have to wait and see what is going to have to happen during the 30-day session in January, but it's really just a Band-Aid to try to get us there. Some of the issues, well, let me just say predominantly the health insurance premiums did require immediate action given the increase that was imminently going to go into effect. They didn't really cover a lot of other issues. They kicked the can down the road to the 30-day session, anything with respect to access to healthcare, some public safety issues, things that we'll be very much involved with. But this really was a very tight and narrow special session. They only passed 4 bills, one of which was the fee bill. So it really is, it's just a temporary provision, and it really amounts to very much of a to be continued. Joe, I just gave a quick 30 seconds on the overview.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Al. Yeah, nothing really of note happened in the special session as it relates to capital outlay. So if, as far as the special session goes, now we have gotten quite a bit of information from Callie Carswell in the meeting we had with her at the Legislative Finance Committee. And then there is word out, sort of guidelines out from the executive, from the governor's office. And there's all sorts of rumors on what's going to be available as it relates to capital outlay, whether shortfalls because of HR 1 are going to have to be made up with money that might otherwise go for capital. So we definitely have to remain on our toes, and we definitely have to be aware of all the opportunities. I think Tom or Libby, yeah, I mean, I hope it's been circulated, the memo from Callie that talks about some of those alternate grant programs that we need to be mindful of. But that's stuff that we'll be paying very close attention to in the coming months, Madam Chair.
Thank you both. I imagine we have questions from the committee. If I can start, I wanted to understand if the consideration for WIC that we are hearing is going to be cut significantly, potentially, and if what they passed would give us the ability to, in the state, to address that shortfall.
So that's a great question. I think that's part of, well, I'm not exactly sure the answer on that, Madam Chair. I know that they were mostly dealing with the healthcare and healthcare premiums. There were some actions with respect to SNAP. On WIC in particular, I'm not sure. I don't know, Joe, let me take a minute and put, if Joe knows, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out.
Madam Chair, I don't know.
Yeah. But I'll get you an answer for you by tomorrow, because if I don't know it, if I can't find it in the next minute while we're on the phone, I'll definitely circle back to you tomorrow, Madam Chair.
No problem. Thank you. I you know, it's obviously not a city program, but I think it affects our citizens significantly, and we will need to consider the impact for city operations as individuals are impacted, and their needs will rise. Are there any other questions from committee members for either of our state lobbyists? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it. And if you don't mind staying in contact, any information you get, if you could share that with both council services staff and our staff, will ensure that everyone receives that information. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. With that, Mr. O'Donnell, I think we all would love to hear what you have to share with us from the inside scoop. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so you all know what basically is the situation here with Congress, the Republicans and Democrats being in disagreement over the continuing resolution and with the White House. The three main sticking points are really the extension of the expiring tax credits for healthcare subsidies for the Affordable Care Act for lower income people, the reversal of the administration's cuts to the Medicaid program, and another item, the third one that you heard more about earlier, but it's not talked about much right in the last week, and that is the Democratic position of no further rescissions to congressional appropriations acts, which are passed by Congress. So those are the three things that are outstanding, and I cannot tell you that they've come closer on the one that seems to be most talked about right now. And the White House mentioned something on Monday about trying to figure out a deal around the healthcare subsidies. That report came out of the White House on Monday morning, and by Monday afternoon, the Hill Republicans had let the White House know that that was a non-starter for them because on the House side, there is a lot of Speaker Johnson's conference who are wedded to this idea of cutting those subsidies. So I can't report that there's been a whole lot of progress. I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes negotiating going on, and I don't think it's just amongst the necessary leaders of the parties on both sides of the Hill. I know there are some groups of Senate and House members who are working also with people that agree with their position about trying to find a solution to this problem. What's beginning to get a little more play in the press, and I'm sure in New Mexico, because of the number of federal military installations, the labs, and the role the federal government plays in the state, you're probably hearing more about how the military will get paid or when they will get paid, and also concerns about workers who have been furloughed. Those are the ones that are not designated as essential government workers, because the White House said, and OMB, I think, was the messenger on this one, that they may not have to pay furloughed workers. Well, this is another example of the difference between the executive branch and the legislative branch, because Senator Collins from Maine, the appropriations chair, made it very clear that there would be a way around Congress to find a way around this problem of paying furloughed workers, because she has no intention of seeing the number of federal employees in the state of Maine and also the military bases in Maine not get their funding. So regardless of what you hear in the press about furloughed workers, I think Congress is going to find out a way to solve that problem. And they did this in 2018 and 2019 when there was a shutdown. They found a way in law, and that law still exists, it's on the books, to pay furloughed workers. So I think that will be taken care of. Again, it's a matter of timing and how long this shutdown goes on. The Senate continues to be in session here, and they bring up HR 5371, which is the continuing resolution that can't get passed. I don't know that I think there may be 5 votes that they need now from senators from the Democrats in order to get that CR passed. I don't see any movement. I heard earlier this week that Senator Angus King from Maine, who votes with the Democrats but is an independent, might have said something about the fact that he feels like this shutdown needs to be ended, but I haven't seen a change anywhere, at least announced that he's made a decision to change his position on that. A couple of other matters I want to address while we're talking about the shutdown. One is because this relates to appropriations, and the question may occur to you whether it's useful to even be thinking about, and I know you're discussing capital outlay for next year at the state legislature, and that kind of corresponds to a similar effort we'd be making at the same time on earmarks for FY27 appropriations. I want to say, I think you should continue to make that a priority, even though in all this uncertainty, there may be a certain skepticism about whether it's an effort worthwhile. But I think what will probably happen here is and there has been some talk on the part of, I should have said this earlier, on the part of some of the appropriations leaders on the Senate side for sure. There's been some discussion about wanting to actually try to finish appropriations bills in regular order before the end of the year. So this current CR goes to November 1st. So they would have time to do that, to finish what they call regular order, which is finishing the appropriations, all of the appropriations bills before the end of the year. So I think that you should continue to think about a list of FY27 appropriations requests. If we go with a CR, I'm going to guess the delegation would probably resubmit or make a priority to resubmit the 25-26 appropriations requests. That's what they did for 26 with the 25 ones that were in bills. So I think that's one path. The other one is if they finish, we should have a list of requests that you're going to make. And that process will begin again in January and be well underway in February and March. Those would be the times for submitting the projects. Other item is I sent out a notice that there's a provision that affects Albuquerque's transit system. And there's support from the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the American Association of Public Transit Agencies to get more flexibility for transit properties that operate in metropolitan areas of between 200,000 and 1 million. That includes Albuquerque and your neighbor El Paso. And this is to get more flexibility to use some of what they call the Section 5307 formula funding, to use more of it for operating assistance. This has been something that mid-sized transit properties have been asking for a number of years. And I think there's enough support that this actually could be one of the provisions that they put in the reauthorization of the surface transportation legislation. So I just wanted to say on that particular point, we can draft a letter for the city to send to the delegation, but I think we can also have a version of that letter that could go to the authorizing committees on the House and Senate side. Madam Chair, that's the extent of my report, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. O. O'Donnell. Are there any questions from the committee for Mr. O'Donnell? While you formulate your questions, I wanted to say, Mr. O'Donnell, we definitely we'll have staff work with you for the letter, drafting of the letter, ensuring that our transit department participates. I imagine that they will eagerly advocate for those letters, and as well as any testimony that would be valuable. We will be happy to ensure that our teams are available to do so. I think our team has a really effective understanding of how this funding could impact their operations in a beneficial way. So thank you. I see your hand, Mr. O'Donnell. Go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm going to also follow up with you, and I've spoken to Mr. Parkinson and Mr. Manacucci about this, but there's also two other pieces of legislation. They won't get to the finish line, I don't think, this year. One is for a bill that's a bipartisan bill in the Senate called the Road to Housing. It's sponsored by the chair and ranking member, and you can imagine the difference between Senator Scott from South Carolina and Senator Warren from Massachusetts. But the two of them have sponsored a bill called the Road to Housing, which does a number of different things for HUD programs, tries to make some improvements with some of them. And there's another bill on FEMA reform in the House that's bipartisan. And the reason Kyriakis and I have thought about this bill and its importance is because there's a provision in it for local governments to use hazard mitigation funding, which comes to the state of New Mexico. So we'll be following up with you on those two pieces of legislation. Not the same level of urgency as the transit one at this point, but those are things that are definitely in the city's interest and for the delegation and the agent and Congress to hear about from the city.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Definitely interested in both of those bills. I think we also would like to know from your perspective if you are hearing or understanding during the shutdown any intentions related to program cuts in the CDBG funds and COC funds that we typically receive, I think, through HUD. I think that if we could have that on your radar, we would appreciate that based upon the current funding streams and the criticality they have for the city.
Madam Chair, are you asking what might, from the shutdown, how that might impact that funding coming to the city?
My question, Mr. O'Donnell, is my understanding is the intent of using the shutdown to potentially eliminate programs within within larger programs and funding streams, and any headwinds or understanding that you may have related to where those program eliminations might be focused, and even understanding if there is an opportunity for us to take a position or provide testimony as to the value and the importance of those programs. We do know that we have the funding impacts related to the senior AmeriCorps programs that we have, and the direct impact that has to seniors that receive stipends, and that is significant for our programming. So having an understanding of other program eliminations that this shutdown would allow for, and if you have any, as I said, any indications or areas of focus so that we can begin to understand the direct impact here locally in Albuquerque.
We'll follow up with you on that request.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Are there any other questions for or requests for Mr. O'Donnell? Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. If you could follow up with staff on those items, of course, including both our staff as well as council services staff, so that we can ensure that folks are informed. I appreciate it.
I will. Thank you.
Is there any other business, Mr. Manacucci or Mr. Parkinson?
Madam Chair, just real quickly, Mr. Thompson, as he said late this morning, sent in 2 documents regarding capital outlay for this 26th session, and we'll get those off to the committee here soon. on that one, just so those will be following up. And then just next month, we will be hearing at the IGR meeting will be the presentation of and hopefully adoption or review and a recommendation by the IGR committee of the federal priorities. It's scheduled per ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Minicucci. We'll look for those documents. Appreciate that. If I may, for the full committee, I think it's helpful if we can make sure that we are sending any, whether it's rumors or any information that we may be receiving related to programs that we're familiar with or that we track to our both city and state lobbyists so that they can track those facts down for us. I think that's been the biggest challenge we've had is lots of chatter and hard to know what's really based in fact. And so anytime we can send those to Mr. O'Donnell, especially at the federal level, since we are a long way from DC sometimes, feels very far away. It will be helpful. So thank you, committee members and other staff, if you don't mind letting other counselors know if anything of course, the invitation is to them as well. Well, with that, go ahead, Mr. Parkinson. No, I thought I heard Mr. Parkinson's voice. Okay, with that, thank you, everyone. Thank you all for your reports. We'll see you all soon. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Happy Balloon Fiesta week, everyone.